viewers, we welcome you to the Rays of Hope this week, and we're very glad that you have joined us. Please remember that as you follow this program, you can also stream it live on Facebook and on YouTube. That is CAC TV Kenya. You are most welcome. As usual, the Rays of Hope program is here to inspire courage, resilience, and most importantly, hope. And that's why we invite the kind of guests that we invite. That's why we discuss the topics that we discuss. And we truly believe that at the end, you'll be inspired to continue looking up in life courageously, with resilience, and very, very hopefully. So you are most welcome. Today, I'm very happy to be joined by none other than the Reverend Canon Peter Karanja. You know him, he's not a new face to us, and he's the immediate former GS of the National Council of the Churches of Kenya, NCCK. Rev, we are very, very happy to have you on board. You can say hello to the viewers.
Good morning, viewers. It's a privilege to be on this program, and I hope we shall have a fruitful time as we share.
Wonderful, and karibu sana.
Thank
and
you.
To start us off, I would like to read a verse from the book of Joshua, chapter 1 and verse number 9. And this is the Lord's command to Joshua. And this is what the Lord said to him. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Today, Canon, we are here to discuss what it means to have courage, to build our resilience, and even to have hope in life. So in the context of those three virtues and this verse, what comes to your mind?
First, to appreciate that verse very much, the call by the Lord to Joshua that he be courageous. And the very talk about courage presumes that the circumstances a person is in or the environment in which they are operating has sufficient challenges and obstacles that would overwhelm him and create fear in them, externally driven, and so that he has to summon some courage from within as he faces those circumstances. Now, the verse you've read does, from the plain look at it, show it is not automatic. And it has to be very intentional. It has to be to move against the current of fear and anxiety and worry that so easily engulfs and overwhelms many people. Now, the task at hand is proportional to the kind of courage or amount of courage you ought to summon. And for those of us who are familiar with the biblical stories, you know, the task ahead of Joshua wasn't a walk in the park.
No.
It was the most challenging thing he would ever have expected to encounter in life. And the shoes he was being asked to fit in were the shoes that had carried the Israelites for 40 years. And Moses had no peer. Now he's stepping aside, and Joshua is being told, you'll take over this responsibility. As is repeated in scripture, many people will ask, am I equal to this task? Now, in everybody's life, this call and challenge of courage comes in. Small children that are barely beginning to walk, just summoning that courage to walk, and they could fall and are likely to fall many times before they can walk steadily, requires as much courage as a president requires to run a country, and in every milestone of life. And you could tell that the final outcomes of most people's lives has to do with how they navigated around the challenges that came their way, and how frequently they were able to summon the courage that was required for them to cross each milestone that they came to. This is a skill that a person needs to have, every one of us. It's a culture that everybody needs to cultivate. And it does require a lot of faith, because it can be empty courage, which can be suicidal. But for Joshua, he's assured that God is with him. and God will carry him through. And so his courage is not necessarily a reflection of his native, inherent, internal capabilities and courage, but the bedrock on which he stands, who is God, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, who is greater than everything we can encounter because he made it. And when he knows this God is behind him, he can be bold. Fortunately, that resource is available to each one of us.
Wow.
If you know Christ, if you are walking with him, if you have understood the doctrine of God and the Christian faith and church, you know you tap into this resource that for generations has withstood the test of time, and God comes through for you as you cover your milestones daily. So it is a great invitation to be courageous.
Wonderful. And I like the way you have explained that even a child, very young, needs to gather courage to even make those first steps in life.
Yes.
And so we are not an exception. The generation that we're living in now, that is faced with corona and all the challenges that come with it, is not strange to be in a challenging situation. That's part of life. And so I don't know what you can speak into that, because we're in a season of uncertainty. We're in a season where we have been on transition, just like Joshua in a way, from what we knew as normal to this new normal, and we don't know what this normal in the future holds.
Absolutely. Every person in their lives, every family in their situation and circumstance, every organization in its contexts and environment of life and work and operation will face challenges. And when you have a national crisis, you have a talking point for everyone. But every day, across the globe, individuals and families and institutions are navigating through huge challenges, sometimes that are not voiced. And for the globe now, and Kenya in particular, it's very unfortunate that we have found ourselves here. But generations in the past did find themselves in pretty similar circumstances when you're confronted by a disease that the scientists don't understand, they don't hold much promise for. You're being asked to wait for a vaccine or a medicine or a solution when you're already sick and you are wondering, will it find you? And it has already taken millions of people globally, and it's likely to take some more before a solution can be found. Thankfully, even before a solution can be found, insights have been thrown in and suggested, which if people were to follow, they may improve their chances of handling the crisis personally and within their families. And it is tragic that there are many people trivializing this crisis, so that you hear them asking, do you know anybody who has died? Are you sure that they died of COVID-19 and not some of these other conditions? And it's tragic to try and experience realities for you to believe, because you may not be there to analyze after you are gone.
Exactly.
So you just have to say, all these people are not fools, so that they make a hype of something of this magnitude, because we can see it, and ask, how can I navigate around it? What one worries about is the social implications and economic implications of COVID-19 because of the novelty of the disease, if you like, because it's new, and the suddenness with which it came. Lives have been thrown into disarray, careers have been ruined, businesses have crashed and may never be recovered, families have been through a lot of strain, and the resources being called upon for individuals to bring to bear on the situation, some of them didn't exist because people didn't think they would ever find themselves there. But crisis is always an opportunity. And I think everybody, really, if they looked at this situation honestly in the eye and keenly, they'll find in the ashes that surround us, there may be opportunities for rebuilding their lives in a new way. And some of the even socio-political and socio-economic effects of this crisis may open new horizons for many people. So the resilient and the courageous and the strong and the bold may emerge out of this stronger as others go under.
And somebody recently said that the problem is not actually the problem. The problem is how you view or you look at the problem.
Absolutely.
So it's a question of also attitude. How do we look at the challenge facing us, and how do we leverage on the opportunities that are there?
Precisely, because the challenge is on everyone. It's not more unique to one person
Yeah, it's not.
or the other.
Yeah.
Children are faced with it.
Yeah.
They cannot be in school as they normally are, and they have to find out how do they maintain their academic thrusts in this environment when supervision is not as robust as normally it is in school. People have been rendered jobless.
Yeah.
It's a reality. It's affecting many, many people.
Yeah.
But you're not dead. You've just lost a job. In figuring out how do I navigate this situation, you may find that you have a place to start. And my theory about what you do in a difficult situation is always begin where you are.
Right where you are.
Begin with what you have.
Where you are, what you have.
And try to leverage, because that's your reality. This is where you are now. This is what you have now. And there are people who have had to change businesses because that is the reality. If you are in the airline industry and the skies have shut down, you won't get your bread where you normally
Get
did.
it, yeah.
But some people had hobbies that they put time in, that they got a kick from. They have become their businesses. Some people discovered that they couldn't now run with their traditional markets, even though they have goods and services, and they have to crack around and ask, which other market can I tap into so that I sustain my operation?
True.
Many people will find there are relationships that they took for granted and didn't give much attention to, but potentially those relationships can become their lifelines. And there are relationships that are no longer useful in the circumstances, at least in the immediate. So anybody who examines their life and checks, where am I? How do I move on from here? If they are honest with themselves and rigorous with themselves as well, they may find what to do.
Wonderful.
And be able to move on.
Wonderful.
If you ask, what have I? Remember Moses, when he was going to rescue the Israelites, he only had a rod in his hand.
Yeah, true.
And he says, this is what I have. And God says, drop it, turns into a snake. And an entire lifetime of miracles is commencing there. Remember the widow of Zarephath, the lady who Elijah went to in the drought. And she says, I have nothing. I have just a little pot of unga and a little oil. When we eat it, we shall be done.
We die.
Beginning with what she has, God gives her a rescue plan for 3 years. The widow that went to Elisha and said, my husband is dead. He has left us in debt. We are about to be auctioned. We have nothing. And Elisha asks, what do you have? She says, we have nothing, just a little oil.
A little oil.
In a bottle. He says, go and gather all the jars you can find in the village. She comes back and says, I have gathered every jar I could find. Then go and pour that oil into the jars. And she has all the jars filled with oil. She's told, go sell, pay your debts, and live on the rest. Somehow, God has great respect of what we have.
Wow.
Because he gave us in the first instance. Now, taking it ourselves, we may not do too much with it. But if God takes it and gets involved,
Wow.
the miracles that may lay ahead may be phenomenal.
Wow.
It's just that our mindset tends to always look for a solution far away from where we are.
True.
When God's design for our solutions begins where we
It's
are,
right where we are.
with what we have. That's what I would say.
Amazing, amazing. And that's why, viewers, today we are unpacking in this context and within the opportunities that are available for us, we are unpacking these three virtues that we all should have. That is courage, resilience, and hope. And so,
Yes.
Canon, let's begin from the beginning.
All right.
About courage, in your own words, how would you define courage, and in the current situation, and even from your experience?
Courage is about realizing that no matter how difficult situations seem around us, those situations are not our destination. They are a situation in our lives, in a long journey that we are on. And for us to keep engaged and to keep going, we just have to summon that ability that is in us to engage and keep engaged and not give up. It's a quality that can be cultivated. And the people in the uniformed forces, the military and the police, the scouts and others, very intentionally have crafted lessons in the journey of the training that people go through, so that you are brought through endurance and your life becomes handling the physical challenges that come. Now, spiritually, you do need to develop muscle as well, and socially as well. And so it's being able to engage and saying, circumstances around me may be challenging or difficult, but I'll work through them. And it's not an instantaneous thing. It's a thing that you build in as you go along. And resilience really is about a string of courage, if you like, that enables you to create in yourself that capacity to face your environment and your challenges, and to keep going on redemptively and not being thrown under, as sometimes circumstances will aim to putting us through. Sadly, because a lot of these things happen in our homes, too many families shield their children too much from those things that would be challenging and would enable them to develop muscle. And you have many, many adults that have a huge deficit of courage, and they give up very easily on all the things around them. They give up on careers, they give up on marriages, they give up on parenting, they give up on their spiritual walk, because faced with challenges, they think that they are coming to an end, rather than that they have an opportunity to build muscle as they walk along. And in days to come and in the future, all of us must find out, how do we nurture courage in ourselves? How do we nurture courage in our children? How do we nurture courage in those around us? And sometimes what you do is to familiarize yourself with the stories of courage. Reading biographies, listening to testimonies, sometimes to sermons, studying the lives of people that you think have made a mark, and trying to string their lives and check how did they get there, so that you inspire yourself. Yeah.
And you're saying that it is something that we can nurture and can also be intentional, because these are qualities that we can build in us. And we seem to be, by and by, and especially for the younger generation now, to be losing that. Because you listen around and you hear that maybe a high school student has taken their life because they could not get a smartphone, they could not, where did the rain start beating us? So where can we start building this? What are the centers that can help us to build?
Nothing beats the home. What a child doesn't get in the first 7 years of life, by way of imaging and modeling and value transfer from the parents, they may not make up as easily. They can make up, but it will be a very uphill task. And so the church and the society must revisit the home as the divinely ordained environment for nurture of all the positive qualities that a person needs to be effective in life. Now, schools must also be intentional. And it's about what is taught, what is modeled by the teachers, and what is nurtured in the curriculum, and the way the school is organized. Schools that very intentionally and purposefully have tried to create a routine that nurtures courage, engagement, effectiveness. You'll find they have generations of students they have produced that display that quality along the way. And Christian schools have made a very big contribution in this. So the society must be very intentional. Yeah. We must assume that kids won't grow into courage by themselves. There may be something innate and genetic that may flow in some families, but for most of us, it will be the kind of nurture that we are exposed to. Wow. So that must be intentional, that must be deliberate. The churches must do it. Sunday school must be structured in a manner to nurture courage. And parents must stop to think that you can make up for the attention you don't give your children by giving them trappings of prosperity and class so that they are okay, because actually you may be digging a grave for them. Every child must grow and learn. No professor produces professors in their children unless they come through the academic track until they become professors. No professional produces a professional in their children unless they go through the normal process of nurturing a professional knowledge and skill. No child will become a good mother any other way except learning from their mother and their father what these family virtues are. So we must be intentional and create time for it. And really, as a parent in particular, if you don't create citizens that can take care of themselves and they can handle challenges in their generations, you don't give life skills to your children. We must very intentionally give life skills.
And Canon, talking about schools, Christian schools, I know you're a product of the Alliance.
Yes.
And so what are your memories from there in terms of did the schooling there and the culture there help you build courage and resilience? Might that have contributed maybe to who you are today?
I think my experience of Alliance was more useful than my experience in any other institution. First, you come from the village with very little around you, and you mix with boys that come from amazing backgrounds that are dropped in big cars, and you are fitting in that environment. Alliance created an environment where you didn't find your bearing and positioning by extraneous considerations, but by the substance that you have. How you are performing in class, how you are performing in sports, the social engagements that you are tapping into, so that your formation shows you have opportunity. You are not a victim, and nobody has advantage simply because they have another background. Alliance is where my faith was nurtured. I came to know the Lord Jesus Christ as Savior when I was in high school, in Form 2. And I think we had the most amazing Christian union and chapel arrangement that not only nurtured the boys in faith, but provided opportunity for them to begin to engage their spiritual gifts and exercise them. And so I did a social visit to Dagoretti Children's Home every week. Because we had a social welfare club. I taught Sunday school every Sunday for the longest time. Some of the kids I taught Sunday school now are grandparents.
Wow.
I began to preach in the school chapel. So my spiritual gifts and my ministry inclinations were nurtured there. When I was in Form 3, the school chaplain challenged me to consider ordained ministry as a possibility for my future.
At Form 3.
Very amusing at the time, but the seed was planted. And I came to the conclusion that early that maybe the biggest thing that could happen is if you are grateful for what the Lord has done and He gives you opportunity, you want to give back by offering the best of yourself to the church. In Form 3, I grew cabbages and sold to the kitchen. That's how I got my pocket money.
Where were you growing them? In the shamba there?
A shamba is provided. You can grow.
By the school?
You'll get the seedlings.
Amazing.
But if you produce a crop, you'll put them on the scale, and the kitchen will buy from you as it buys from the market. Market prices.
Look at that.
So the things that I couldn't have afforded, that the boys coming from rich backgrounds had, I could make up by making my own money. And you could say that the enterprise spirit may have come from there. Before it for 4 came, we had 16 subjects that were taught in Form 1 and 2. And you got the widest exposure so that you can choose what you want to study. But you pick up life skills across the whole breadth of these subjects, making you a real person. So Alliance was tremendous.
Wonderful.
Yes, I love it.
And then we celebrate the the work that churches do.
Absolutely.
And Alliance being, sponsored by the Alliance of Churches, a number of denominations, we celebrate the work that the church does in the education sector and other sectors, and we celebrate you. We must take a short break right now, and we will be right back to discuss more on hope and how we need also to leverage on what God has given us. So please don't go away. See you shortly.